Hello and via live. My name is Christian. I'm the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur host. And I know I say this at every episode, but today's guy is better than yesterday because this guy is amazing. And he is so, I think you need to wait for that, what he is. Hello and we are back. My name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. And today I have a really, really unique guest. Have you ever been to an event where you just connected with somebody and felt like you knew each other for the longest time? That's what happened to me as I met today's guest on a mastermind. And today's guest is not just amazingly good in what he does. He is a serial entrepreneur. He is a coach for high performing entrepreneurs. And for me, he is a force of greatness. And he is an amazing human being and an amazing businessman. With that, I want to welcome Clint Nobles. Welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. What an incredible intro. You are literally one of the best people in the world. And truly, I love what you do. I've admired what you've done for years. And it is such an honor to be here. And I love the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. It's like, of course you have this. Of course you do.
And truth be told, because I think we're the same person, every time we connect virtually, it takes forever. So sometimes when his wife connects, is there in the office with him and I connect, she says, okay, I see you in 5 hours. I order out. And the day I
She
didn't
left
know
earlier. She left earlier. She knew I was getting on this. And she was like, I'm going home. And I'm going to pick you up for church.
It's a crazy thing. And I seen the day in my calendar, my team cleared 2 hours after this because they knew we gonna run long. So, but Clint, first off, thanks a lot for being here today. Thanks for making yourself available and thanks for the gift of your time. But help our audience a little bit to understand, who is Clint Nobles? What does he do? And how did you become the C-suite entrepreneur you are today?
Well, at heart, Clint Nobles, I'm just a chef, right? I'm just a cook. That's all I do. That's it. That's all I do. It's all I wanted to do. But what I've actually become and what I've realized is that within me was so many incredible opportunities. I didn't have to wait for opportunities outside of me. There was so much inside of me that I could leverage. And it started years ago working in hospitality. I worked every position from dish pit to C-suite, right? All the ones in between. And through that whole time, what I did is I learned that the place I was going to was actually made possible by the place I was in.
I love that.
I took everything that I learned and poured it into who I was, because how I did what I'm doing now is going to be how I do what I do then. Mm-hmm. And now it has grown. We went, like I said, from every area of hospitality. We grew businesses across the United States. And then I moved into the wonderful world of home care. Mm-hmm. And home care, if you don't know what it is where you send caregivers or, nurses, things like that, into seniors or those with disabilities, and you help them and you care for them. Well, my wife owned that business, and she was like, we need somebody in operations. I was like, turns out I'm an operational methodologist, right? That's what I do, right? That was my title. And did not impress her as much. But we started working in this business of home care, and I took everything I had learned. Remember, I said what I did right now prepared me for what I was going to do. I took everything I had learned in hospitality, how you manage labor, how you manage inventory, right? How you actually connect and engage with people, how you put something on a plate. I took all of that and I pushed it into home care. And we found out that business is business, and the principles that made a business successful, when we took a hospitality company concept IPO, the same principles we used to do that allowed us to take this home care agency and go multi-state, $1 million. And we actually grew 7 figures in less than 9 months. Right. And it was based on business principles. Now I am blessed you talk about force for greatness, and I honor that so much. Thank you for that, because in what we do now, we actually have the largest network of home care owners that we are blessed to be a part of and to impact their lives. We have over 13,000 home care owners across the industry, right, in Home Care Ops Nation. And we meet with them weekly and we talk about how they can actually build a business by design and not default, how they can actually have income, profit, and do it while exiting daily operation. And it's been an incredible journey. And I tell you, a disruptive entrepreneur, I felt pretty disrupted through that process sometimes, but it's been amazing.
I love that. And every time we talk, I learn something new. And truth be told, as I met Clint for the first time, it's not a competition, but I was like, oh my God, this guy's fucking amazing. I need to find a way to beat him. And, it's been a friendly competition ever since. It's not, it's not a fun competition as long as we win. But there was a few things I absolutely admire about you. And we had this at one of our last conversations. You have that innate ability to take something super complex and break it down into little steps, because I think you're an operational genius. So talk to us a little bit how or where did you develop that? You have that background in hospitality. And for us, for our listeners, we always talk about that being a disruptive chef entrepreneur is about leveraging not just your skill set, but some of the transferable skills you have in the industry. And there's nobody who does it better than you. So talk to us a little bit how you made that pivot and how you take that whole idea of something very complex and just make it simple, a step-by-step process for people to follow.
So pivoting is something that you do all throughout your life. I did it, right? When I went from the salad guy to the grill guy, right? This pivot that you have to make, there's a mental shift. There's a physical shift, right? You went from working where it was kind of cool to now you're in the heat. And like, there's this physical shift that has to happen. But how you take something that is complex and break it down is actually the keys to the pivot, because pivoting is not the entirety of what you're doing. And this is really important. So if you're a disruptive chef entrepreneur right now and you're like, I know I need to do this, or you're aspiring to be, wherever you're at, understand the pivot is the first step. It doesn't define or design what's to come. You do. The pivot is the first step in the process. And when I realized that making the pivot didn't determine what was going to happen, it only opened up the opportunities for things to happen, then pivots become a lot easier. Then I could look and be like, oh, I'm going to pivot here. I'm going to pivot here, because I knew I had the skill set, right, to handle what came next, because the pivot didn't control me. I controlled the pivot. And that was one of the biggest things.
And so you're so really good at it. And maybe you can give people a little bit more of your background, how you started out in food service. And I love your analogy when you clean the grill. Introduce our audience a little bit to your grill cleaning skill, which became a whole life mantra for you.
Yeah. So picture it. I got my bandana on, right? I'm wrapped in my bandana, right? Right. I got my shoes. No, seriously. So one of the first times I realized that there was something different in how I needed to think was when I was cleaning the grill and the griddle. Of course, the chef, he had a way he wanted it done. If you didn't do it that way, it was shit. And I was just like, oh my God. And it was the hardest freaking way ever, right? Just let me use chemical. But no matter what it was, I was dreading it. I hated it. And then one day I realized that I wasn't actually cleaning the grill. I wasn't cleaning the oven. I wasn't doing the grunt work. I was actually preparing and building my future. And what I put into that moment was what I was going to get out of it. And that's how I used to train. And of course, when you work hard, you become a trainer, right? Because they want you to train that into other people. And how I used to train, and this is how I looked at it, honest to God. I did this when I served. I did this when I was on the grill. I did it when I was managing. Doesn't matter. When I was a CEO, right, of a hospitality concept. No matter the level, I did this. I realized that I wasn't an employee. I didn't think of myself as an employee. I recognized I was an entrepreneur. I was a owner. This was my business. I was a subcontracted agent, right? And so when I stepped up to the grill, that was my business. I walked in it just like I owned it, and I took care of it that way, and I did the job. I realized it wasn't about producing a better steak. It was about producing more incredible steaks, right? It wasn't just, I didn't need one steak. I needed 10. I looked at it as the growth aspect, and that was a major shift for me, and that's when things really started flipping.
I love that. And I know you and I talked about this a few times already, the impact your dad had in the way you currently think. And he was a visionary thinker. He was very resilient and adaptive. And he was also one of the strongest networking skill kind of guys you met. So talk to us a little bit how your upbringing shaped the Clint, which produces 8-figure businesses today.
So y'all know me as the high achievement coach and the hospitality and this concept growth and IPOs and all this. But how I actually started was I used to lift watermelons. That's what I did because my family owned a fruit market, and I would move hundreds of watermelons a season. And we did tomatoes, and we had plants. Like, we were legit. But my dad had this business, and he had a 6th grade education, and every day, one of the conversations we would have was, what did you learn? And I call it now wins and wisdom. What did you win that day? Yeah. And what's the wisdom you're moving into tomorrow? And my dad only knew hard work. He was a preacher before that. So, we were Pentecostal, so we were super poor. And then we had a business, and he was doing all of this with no help, no support network, it felt like, but he built it and he grew it. And every day he would tell us, what did you learn? And watching him do that, and I try not to get too emotional about this, but I always say that my mom and dad bore in their body the marks of success. They bore in their body. Their health broke down. They got burnout. They got frustrated. They were tired. They bore in their body the marks of success. And at the end of the day, it seemed like what they had the most of was what I call the bastard child of surrender, which is regret.
Yeah.
And they just wanted this and they just wanted that. And no matter how hard they worked, it wasn't about the working hard. It was about the learning more.
Yeah.
And so they really instilled in me, and my mom and dad are my heroes. My dad, I love my dad and my mom. And thankfully, my kids are getting to experience them. And it's something that, for me, created a foundation of every time something happens, I say, what did I learn? What can I learn? Before I ever say, what do? I say, what did I learn?
Mm-hmm. I absolutely love that. Talk to our listeners a little bit, because I know there's a few hundred, if not a few thousand people which listen to this today, is they know that they meant for more. And some of them might even have looked themselves in the mirror this morning saying, I wish I would be further ahead by now. Where did you realize that you are meant for more? And how did that materialize in your career?
The back of the book cover says I started my first business when I was 7. And it's like, I started first, I sold labels back when people mailed things, and I would go into businesses in my suit, my little red power tie and my briefcase. And I'd be like, hey, I'm Clint Nobles. Are you the owner? And they, yeah. And I'd be like, well, your day just got easier and you didn't even know that was going to happen. Right. That's the back of the book version. Yeah. But earlier than that, actually, some years earlier, I was in 1st grade, and I put together a network of boys. You know those books that people give out, and you're supposed to go sell candy bars and stuff. Then you get prizes out of the books, right? So, well, I only have 3 other people in my family besides me. We knew nobody in that town, and we just moved there, right? Well, all these kids had family and stuff, and I was like, okay, it's not about how can I get this nice bike. It's who can help me get it. And I went in and I recruited about 8 boys. And we did this on the bus, and I recruited 8 boys, and they all went out and sold and then turned in all the stuff under my name. And so because of that, went straight up, right? And then we distributed the rewards, and we all got the stuff we wanted, right? And I remember telling my dad about that. And he was so happy and so proud. Then somebody told somebody else's parent, and the principal took it all from us. They were like, no, you're not going to do this. And I remember my dad telling me, Clinton, how you thought to make that happen, don't let anybody ever tell you that was wrong.
I love
and that. From there on, I just poured into, there's got to be something more. There's got to be, how can I do it? And how can I do it again? So this is the key for me. So a lot of entrepreneurs get hooked on the vision of it. And they get hooked on the vision. What they're actually hooked on is the dream. They're actually hooked on the dream. Dream is that I'm going to make a global impact. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. That's the dream. I'm going to have 4 restaurants. I'm going to be on TV, right? I'm going to beat Bobby, right? Whatever your dream is, right? No matter what it is, that's the dream. Vision is your guide rails.
Mm-hmm.
And vision actually gives you the path. I'm going to create incredible impact and I'm going to have 4 restaurants. That's a great dream. The vision is what you say, okay, in order to have 4 restaurants, that means I need to become really proficient in at least 2 styles so that I can harvest people to do the others, right? I need to be great at leadership. I need to be able to hire. I need to be able to recruit. You start building the path. That's what vision does. Vision is the guide rails that says, hey, don't go too far because you won't get your dream.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. And during your process, you always talk about risk taking, but you overlay a little bit more. You call it calculated risk taking. Talk to us a little bit how you did this within pivoting within your career.
So there's a saying in the coaching and information space, and I hate it. I literally hate it. I have literally corrected so many people in major people on this, but they say you got to jump out of the airplane and grow wings on the way down, right? Have you ever heard that? It's like, and it's this moment in time where you're like, yes, and it's always in these big conferences, right? And you're just like, yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And you're like little lemmings. That's what I always think of, little lemmings running off the cliff. The problem is you can't grow wings on the way down. You can build them. Now, if you are crazy enough to jump out of an airplane without a parachute, right? Now, if I was getting on that plane, trust me, I wouldn't have stepped on the plane without having my parachute, having it set, knowing it was there, right? But if you're going to get on a plane and you're in a moment where I call chaos, everybody has chaos in their life, right? A good Lord, chefs have it probably more than most. But you have chaos in your life. Chaos feels like it's happening to you.
Yep.
When I talk about taking calculated risk isn't the bad thing. Risk isn't the negative. It's not being able to live with the downside. That is. So if you don't say, okay, what's the negative and can I live with it? Then the risk is bad, right? Because you don't know. I don't know if I can do that. However, calculated risk starts with understanding your end result, what I call the non-negotiable outcome. So I can walk into chaos. Chaos can come to my door, knock, 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 open it up and just chaos, punch me in the face, right? Mike Tyson's, everybody's got a plan to get punched in the face, right? Well, the truth is, it isn't about reaction. It's about response. This is still my house. Chaos came to me. And chaos isn't bad. Chaos is just undirected energy. That's all it is. So my job is to direct it. Here's my house. Hello, chaos. Welcome to my funnel, right? And this is how you come into my house and this is how you leave. In order to do this calculated risk, because it's scary to be standing on a line and think, I got to give all of this up to go do this. And, some people do it. Some people drop everything, right? And they go do it and they're great. Most people don't have that experience when they drop everything, right? It's hard and it's scary. But at the end of the day, if you can leverage what you're currently doing to create the future that you will become, that's what you need to do.
I love that. And again, you make it sound so simple. So, you lifted and you made that pivot from hospitality professional, being in the back of the house to a C-suite executive. Can you help our listeners a little bit to understand what was the steps you took and maybe give them 1 or 2 steps on your own, what they can do to kind of test the waters and try to make that pivot?
Anytime that you're going to make these pivots, you're going to make this moment of shift, which is what a pivot is, a moment of shift. There's required actually 3 things that you have to have 3 things. And I'll give you those 3 things right away. Number 1, you have to have intentional focus. It's not just about focusing on something. It's about having intentional focus. Focus that says, if I focus on this, I am going to get this out of it. Remember that end result, that non-negotiable outcome?
Yep.
That's what determines your intentional focus. Once you have focus, just like with a camera, right? You put the camera up, you have to get it in focus first. Then you can create clarity. I'm going to get crystal clear on this. Once you have aligned clarity, right? It's intentional focus. What's my end result? my aligned clarity, what's going to help or hurt me in this situation, then it comes down to your energy and your well-being, which really is the skill that we possess. And skill is resources, actions, and support. So those are the three things required for the pivot, right? How I did it in my business and in my life in hospitality and going from dish pit to C-suite, what I actually did is I learned that at every level, it wasn't about the how I was going to do it. It was about who had done it before and who could help me get there faster. And right now, if you're making the pivot, if you're in the moment of pivot, or you're wanting to be in the moment of pivot, or you've been in the pivot and you're like, I really want to stop now, no matter where you are in this, understand that being able to turn those decades into days, like Tony talks about, is magic. It's really what makes it possible, because it wasn't me who just was such a great dishwasher that I got to be a manager, right? That wasn't the process. It was actually all of the incredible people around me that was helping teach me the skill I needed to move forward. And that moving forward was really where I shine with what I could do.
Yeah, I love what you just said and how you kind of broke it down. Do you feel there is a level of decisiveness which is missing in people which want to make that pivot? Is it passion? Is it mindset? Where do you think not just what's holding them back, what stops people from doing what you did?
So you'll have to keep me on track with this, okay? Because this is my favorite topic in the world. I actually have an entire thing I teach called the point of reaction. And with this, you mentioned what holds people back. Is it being decisive? And what I want to say is what actually holds people back is that they tend to, and I've interviewed hundreds of high achieving entrepreneurs. And this is what I've learned after that is what held them back. And with the moment that it changed, and then it was lights out and they were gone. What happened in my life is I quit making choices.
Yeah.
And I started making decisions. A choice is something I'm given. All right. I'm in this position and I could become a manager. I could become a chef. I could become an owner. That's a choice you're given. No, when you make a decision, I will be this, I will be that. Does that mean it's written in stone and angels sing hallelujah when you cross the finish line? No. Does it mean it's actually going to be the thing you did? No. You know why? Because when I was 14, I was 100% certain I was going to be an American history professor that dressed in colonial garb when I was teaching about the revolution and carried a musket into a college. Like that was my dream, right? I was going to totally, right? I was going to do it. Did that mean I wound up doing that? No. But I made the decision and I started learning history and you know what I actually did is I actually met a man in doing this who was part of a local history group who took me under his wing and brought me into the oldest running family business in the state of Tennessee for restaurants and brought me in as a host and started training me and nurturing me. And I worked every position in that restaurant. And he finally made me manager, then GM, then executive, and I started going up. And he did all of that because I made a decision that I was going to do something. It didn't wind up being what I was going to do. So if you want to make this pivot, if you're like, okay, I have so many things in front of me, how do I know which is the right one to choose?
Yeah.
You ever get asked that by people? Like, how do I know what's the right one to choose?
All the time. What I tell them? Help me choose. What is the right thing for me?
What is it? You know what I always tell them? I always say, all right, so you have all this, the right one to choose. I'm going to tell you it right now. Are you ready? And they always get so happy. And I go, it's the one you choose. And they're like, what? I'm like, just choose one. Because until you make that choice, until you make that decision, I'm going to do this, then you don't really know if you want to, if you're able to, or if it's something that's viable. But in making the decision, a lot of times what we do is we start one path and then we're like, actually, that looks pretty good, better over there, right? And so we actually find out the grass sucks on that side and we'd much rather be on this grass, right? So just make the decision and then start your pivot, but decide first.
I love that. I love that. So if you, or for our listeners, if you would have to start over, what would you do? Not just differently. Let me break it down into three things. If you would have to start over, what would be the first thing you stop doing? The second thing is, who is the first person you would partner or hire? And the third thing, what would you not just go out and put in the marketplace, but who will be in your group of influence or membership side? Who will be the person you want to have on your side doing that?
Oh my God. So what would I stop doing? Everything. I would start, if I, honest to God, if I started a business and started over from scratch, I would recognize that it's not about getting every client. It's about getting the one that pays the bills. So if I can get a client that pays the bills, that takes the pressure off. And then I can get a client to pay for the help. And then I can get a client to pay for this, right? And so understanding the difference in, it's not about getting everything, but it's about getting the right thing, right? Championships aren't won because you win every minute. It's because you win the minutes that matter most. Who would I partner with? Well, thankfully, I know one of the best people in the world, Mr. Christian Fisher, and just the level of mindset that you have. For those who do not have an amazing friend like Christian Fisher, one, get one. Two, look for somebody. I would look for somebody who thought 3 steps ahead. I would look for somebody that their instant answer wasn't how, but who, where, who's done it before, where is it working, right? And then I can partner with that. Money isn't a problem. When you learn how to make money, money's not the problem. You can always make money, right? You just might pay for it for a while. I could go make $100,000 tomorrow, but I'm going to pay for it for 12 months because I got to deliver on it, right? So money's easy to make. As far as who would be in my corral, ask me that question again.
Yeah, because
so I understand what you're wanting.
Yeah, if you really think about, for everybody I talk to, entrepreneur, Richard Stado, what they would say, I would not do this again because I would stop this tomorrow because it took so much time, it took so much effort, it took so much money, so much frustration. I would stop doing that tomorrow. The second thing is, who would you partner with or who would you hire? And people say, I would hire a VA, I would hire a mentor, I would hire somebody else. And finally is, there's this person, I would just, Tony Robbins calls it the influence and being around people which have that, forward-thinking mindset. Whose wagon would you hitch your career on to kind of grow and scale faster?
Oh, shoot. This might be the narcissist in me, but I wouldn't hitch it to anybody's wagon. If I was growing, it would be AI. Like, I wouldn't hitch it to a person. I would hitch it to a innovation because innovation is no respecter of person. It doesn't care. And innovation isn't breaking everything down and tearing it apart. It's actually just delivering a better value. Right. So, that's what I would do. I would, and which, I mean, I wouldn't just do that. I have done that. I've done that in our business. Like we like totally went into AI. We built our own platform. It's called Automated Influence. And it is amazing because it literally infuses my influence in my businesses, all of my businesses, right? That I have. It literally, AI infuses virtual Clint, right? How I make decisions, not what I would do, but how I make decisions into my businesses and my management teams, my leadership. They don't have to wonder, am I making something that Clint would do? I train them to make decisions like I would make.
I absolutely love that. And I can talk to you forever, but I want to be respectful of your time. Before we wrap up, I have 5 questions I will ask. So we do this rapid fire question in a little bit. But before we do that, help our listeners to learn a little bit more. Where would they find out more about you and how can they learn more about you and how can they consume your content you put out there?
So you can go on, we're on YouTube. You can go to Home Care Ops. Literally, it's right back there, Home Care Ops. And go to homecareops.com and you find out everything you want to know. We teach master classes. And I tell you, we do it for the home care space. We don't actually teach home care. We teach business principles. So if you're a chef, if you want to learn business principles, I'm doing a master class on scaling while exiting daily operations. I'm doing one on what I call the path to profit. So if you want to not work as much or you want to make more money, come to it.
I absolutely love that. And we will have your information on the show notes. And for our listeners, if you haven't done so, make sure you just not walk over there, run over there and check him out and what he does. And I hope you see why we brought him on to introduce you guys to the way he thinks, is because he looks at this whole thing so different than anybody else in our industry. He is amazingly good in what he does. I always said everybody needs a Clint. And then finally for me is, how great would it be to increase profits in whatever you do, work a little bit less and find a way to exit your business? And he is amazingly good in that. So Clint, thanks for sharing your insights. So with that, let's pivot into our 5 rapid fire questions.
And I like how you did that pivot. I like that. It was nice.
And truth be told, he didn't see the questions. We never talked about it. So I answer what comes first to mind because we want to have our audience learn a little bit more about you. So first question is, if giving the power to ban an ingredient forever, what is it and why?
Truffle salt. Truffle salt is overpowering and you either love it or you despise it. I don't like it at all.
So you just pissed off a whole group of people because there's nothing better than that. Question number 2. What is a kitchen gadget which is way overrated?
Spiralizer. I think a spiralizer is like the most useless thing. It does one thing.
We just have spiralized squash today, so you just made another group. You just put yourself on an island.
If you like spiral, it's your jam. But if you want anything else, it ain't doing nothing for you.
Question number 3. What is the best advice you got you never followed?
Just do it. It took me years to do that. A guy by the name of Art Williams. If you have not looked him up, he's amazing. But a guy by the name of Art Williams had a speech called Do It. It's actually where Nike got their Do It speech from. Mm-hmm. And his thing is just do it. And he's like, well, Art, I'm a big time producer. Do I have to do it? And he's like, yes, you really got to do it. He's like, do what, Art? Well, you do it. You do it and you do it until the job gets done. And I didn't take that advice for a long time. And man, when I did start taking it, it changed.
I love that. Now, in the same form as question number 1, where you were giving the power to get rid of an ingredient, now giving the same power, you could get rid of a dish forever. Ooh. What dish needs to disappear off a menu tomorrow?
Ooh. Bacon wrapped steak. I hate bacon wrapped steak. I've cooked so many in my life, and the bacon is like, if you don't oven that stuff first, it doesn't ever crisp up, and it just stares at you and mocks you for your incompetence to crisp bacon around a moist steak. Like, I hate it. So annoying.
I love that, but there's a group of people which absolutely loves that, and you just put yourself.
It's on what I do. I love alienating people. I love it.
Last question is: so we want to know about you and hospitality. What does hospitality mean to Clint?
Value. It means value. What value and impact am I having? Mm. Hospitality isn't a service. It isn't an act. As a matter of fact, what I teach and what I believe, we call it experience-based operations. But I believe wholeheartedly that service is solutions. Mm. If what I'm doing doesn't provide a solution, it's not a service. A Band-Aid doesn't help. Just feeding someone because they're hungry is a Band-Aid. Giving them an experience that they can bring their family to, their friends to create an atmosphere that makes them part of you and you part of them, that's a solution, because we actually want community, not food.
I absolutely love that. And I appreciate you being here. And thanks for sharing so honestly, even though you pissed off a whole bunch of people, there's so many bacon lovers out there. If you could put truffle oil on it, oh my God. and you just shit on it. So there's so many people very upset because of that. But I want to say thanks for your friendship. Thanks for being here. And kind of talking about what makes you tick. And for our listeners, if you haven't done so, make sure you check out Clint Noble and what he does, because the things he talks about, they are not just generational, cross industry, because he teaches the principles on steps you can take to just knock it out of the park tomorrow. I'm a big believer that most, or if not all, restaurateurs are a skill, a network, and a strategy away to have a total different outcome. And the way Clint thinks is expiring exactly that. So with that, Clint, thanks for being here. Thanks. Any final closing words of wisdom for our listeners?
Get plugged in. Get plugged in. If this is your first time listening to the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show, listen to it again. Listen to the previous episodes. Like, literally, get plugged in. There's an incredible community. Go out and actually make a difference.
Love that.
Don't just flip a burger. Don't just plate a meal. Make a difference.
I absolutely love that. So with that, I want to say thanks for being here. Thanks to our listeners. Thanks for listening in. Remember to disrupt your kitchen, fire up your career, stay hungry for change. I'm Christian here with my special co-host, Clint. We are out of here. So we're not plugging in, we unplugging. And if you haven't done so, make sure you take the grill cleaning story and make it your philosophy of life, because then you will be the change. You be the chef who sets the world on fire. So with that, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening in. And if you haven't done so, go out there and be disruptive.